Clearly wellbeing is more important than ever, and so is tackling climate change, and there are a lot of parallels between the two different agendas. So I thought I'd start by posing the question for you to consider what that shared opportunity for you in your organisations is. So I think, am I right in thinking that I've got about 40 minutes? Is that right? Yeah, okay. So, oh, let me just, so what I thought we'd do, I don't want to do death by PowerPoint, although there are quite a few slides, but I'll share them with you afterwards. And so all of those links and stuff that you will have, so there's no need to scribble down. So I'm just going to talk a little bit, warm us up about wellbeing for the planet and people initially. Then we're going to go to breakout groups, which I'm hoping that Shawnee and Charlotte will manage for me, if that's okay. Where we can have a little discussion. We'll have a bit of a roundup, and then I'll go through some of the resources and opportunities that we have available, and also from partners, and then open to questions. So hopefully that's okay. So I thought I'd just do a bit of a warm-up exercise to start with. I've got a bit of a busy image there, and I thought I'd just throw it open to the floor for thoughts from all of you on where our carbon emissions come from. So feel free to pop some thoughts in the chat and use this image as a bit of inspiration. It'd just be really nice to get some thoughts on where you think our carbon emissions come from in this city. So please don't be shy. Feel free to put up your hand, but also chat is absolutely fine. Thank you, Robert. So one of the first ones, industry. Yeah, industry. There's industrial processes and manufacturing. Cars. Yes, most of our cars in the city are powered by either diesel or petrol, which gets burnt to and creates carbon emissions there. So transport, a big one, and it's not just cars. Yes, so other vehicles. We've got HGVs, vans, all sorts. Yeah, even our appliances, cows. Yeah. So what we eat and our choices there. So great, fantastic start, everybody. I'm very impressed. And also how we heat our homes. So clearly you guys are on it. A really good range of thoughts there. So I think you've captured quite a lot of things. So cars are a really big one. And if we look at the national data, each of us drives about 20 miles a day in our cars. And how that actually equates to carbon emissions, that's about 6 kilos of CO2. Now, I don't know whether any of you guys have been bowling, but do you know how much those bowling balls, they're about 6 kilos. So if you imagine that every day we go in the car, we create a bowling ball versus CO2, and you think of all of us on this call now, how many bowling balls that is every day stacking up, you start to get a feel for how much that is. So also flights, I don't know, didn't see that anybody mentioned flights, but that's another one. And the one that we all often don't think about is stuff. So all of the stuff that we buy has a carbon footprint because it's all of those raw materials that often need to be dug out of the ground, that are then processed in factories and then shipped to us, and then typically onto a lorry to get to us. So all of that stuff we buy has a huge footprint. Food, that's another one that we often miss. Our food system is responsible for about 1/3 of all of the global carbon emissions. So that's a huge impact area. We've got our homes, so how we heat our own homes, as we said, predominantly gas boilers, some oil boilers, but mainly gas at the moment, and also making hot water. So when we've got that on the table, we can start to see actually lots of the things in our lives have an impact and are creating carbon emissions, and are things that we can think about changing. So Plymouth's carbon footprint. I thought I'd just give you a bit of background information as a starter for 10. So just to explain the way that we calculate our carbon footprint in the city, it takes account of all of the emissions that we produce within our borders. So what we don't capture here is all of those emissions that are produced outside of our borders. So for example, all those products we buy, they get shipped in. Most of the food that we buy, also the emissions happen elsewhere. So they are really important. They're just not counted within our territorial carbon footprint. So the really big ones in the city are, as you guys have already jumped on, it's transport. So that's well over a quarter of our emissions in the city, and 99% of that is from our cars, from roads. So not just cars, it's cars and vans. About 60% of that is cars. And then the other big one is building, so heating our homes and hot water, and that's closely followed by power. So if we were able to tackle those three big ones, that would be well over, well, it's approaching about 3/4 of all of the carbon emissions in the city. And then we've got some of those other ones there.
Yeah.
Happy days.
Okay, well done, you sorted it.
Sorted it. Okay, right. So where was I? We talked about that, and this is what we were on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you didn't get to see any of the pretty pictures, but I've covered this, and I was literally just going to move on to this. And so this slide is showing, so how are we actually doing on our journey to net zero? Now, I don't want to assume that everybody knows what net zero is. So because it's one of those terms that gets bandied around and no one has a clue what that is. So what net zero is, in simple terms, is it's finding that balance between all of the emissions we put out and we generate into the atmosphere, and all of the emissions that we absorb. And we absorb emissions through our trees and in our soils and plants and things like that. So we're trying to get to a zero balance as a city. So this chart shows us how we're actually doing against that. And you can see that the yellow line, actually, this is from 2008, we're doing really quite well. But if we look at our buildings, the orange one, we've not really made much progress. And transport, we had a nice big dip over COVID, but that's kind of bounced back now, and probably a little bit higher. So whilst we are making progress, and this one is a big one, the power, actually that's largely through the grid decarbonising. So we've got approaching 50% of our power now comes from renewable energy, but we're not really making progress in all of those other things. And then if we start to think around all of those challenges from a health perspective that we're just seeing more and more. So we know that our cars are choking up the streets, and when our children are walking to school, they have to breathe the fumes of those cars that are coming out. And there's also that well-being aspect of sitting in traffic every day being a real burden. We know that we've got an obesity problem, and we know that ultra-processed foods that use energy to create a lot of those, and nasty kind of like processed meat also is a challenge and having health impacts. We know that we've got homes that are not well insulated and with damp issues that create respiratory problems. And we know that actually there's a lot of anxiety caused by all of the stuff and clutter that we've got in our lives. So we start to kind of like think around all of the health things, and then what we need to do from a climate perspective. We start to join some of the dots there. So I thought there's a couple of other things to kind of like consider in this mix. So we know that half of all of the trips in our cars are less than 2 miles. So something to think about there. We know that when people get into connected to nature and do things like growing and are connected to growing foods, that has a really strong impact on well-being. And we also know that each person in Plymouth creates about 4 giant pandas worth of waste every year. That's about 370 kilos of waste every year. That's stuff that we're chucking out. So just some things to think about. Now, whether this is going to work, I really don't know, but I just wanted to show you a very short film. It's about 30 seconds to ponder.
Imagine a picture.
Can you hear that?
Thriving communities connected to nature. If we all work together
to tackle climate change now.
this future is within our reach. Are you with us?
Are you with us? Are you with us?
Are you with us?
So it's just a little
Imagine a picture.
oops that we had for bringing different stakeholders in the city together. Now, I thought this would be a good opportunity just to reflect on some of the content I've just shared there, and if we can go into breakout groups now, just to have a chat around what the shared opportunity is, and whether you can think of any opportunities there may be for change in your organisations and how that fits with your role as wellbeing champions. So we're just going to do that for 10 minutes and then come back and have a little bit of a chat around what kind of things you've discussed in your groups.
Welcome
Right.
back, everyone.
We're back, yay!
We made it.
I'm sorry to Suzanne, who got cut off mid-sentence, can I just say? Okay.
That's okay, no worries.
No. Okay. Well, I realise you didn't necessarily have the questions in all of the different breakout groups, so I'm sorry about that, but I hope you had a fruitful discussion. We did in ours. So actually, can I call on it was, I can't see who it was now. I think it was Sam who started in our group. So some of the things, yeah, Sam, do you want to share just some of the reflections that you had?
Yeah, okay. I mean, one thing I forgot to mention is that we did a sustainable travel survey as well, which was quite interesting, and it kind of reinforced that our staff are traveling sustainably, but I think that's because of our location. As Shawnee knows, we've got a lovely location on the Barbican. So it's right down the road from Beryl Bikes. We've got, right from the bus stop and things like that. But yeah, we started a green team in our Exeter site and has been trialing that, and now we're starting our green team in Plymouth, and we're just keeping it very simple, taking little steps, but making sure that we're tracking everything so that we can kind of feed that back to our staff and say, well done, this is what you're doing, this is what you're contributing to. So we're starting with the water coolers, taking away the plastic cups, replacing it with paper cups. We got recyclable bins. That was a real education. How can people get that wrong? It's just like there's a picture right in front of you of what needs to go in there. But anyway, the lights and everything, the lights switch off when nobody's in that area and there's no movement. And we, as I say, we're keeping it very simple. We had a volunteering group who did some work in the community. Instead of jumping in their cars, they all walked to the event. And our green team kind of complement our engagement forum and our Wellbeing Champion forum. So whenever we're organising activities, whether it's a wellbeing activity or an engagement activity, we have to get we have to get everything passed and authorised by the green team, because they come at it with a new perspective, with the fresh pair of eyes, with their green hat on. So it kind of supports all our events and activities. However, saying that, I did think it was ironic that it's plastic free month, isn't it? And they'd laminated all the posters, so I had to kind of say, hang on guys, what are we doing here? What message are we sending out? So we don't always get it right.
Thanks, Sam. It was really good to hear what you guys are up to, and that we discussed in our group, and everybody did feel there was a shared opportunity, or largely. But we also talked about making it really relatable, and Danny was talking about the bowling ball, and I think there's probably lots of other things that we need to think about to help you in that messaging. And actually, I do probably, Sam, I'm excited about all the things that you're going to do, but one thing just to pick up is to remember that getting rid of plastics is really, really important, but a paper cup has a carbon footprint too.
I
So
know.
it's not always a climate win. And actually the real
Yeah,
climate win there is reusable cups. So having
yeah.
cups that you use over and over again, that's a real climate win. So sometimes there is a lot of stuff out there and it's just a bit confusing. So I think our role as well is to try and be helpful so that you actually are armed with the right kind of stuff and the right kind of actions, because it's just so overwhelming, all of the different choices you can make, can't you?
Yeah,
So
I mean, I must say the majority of our staff do actually have their own water bottles. It's a thing in our place, and it's the bigger the better. Apparently, you know, they're coming in with these huge water bottles, and I'm thinking, oh my God, and they're standing there at the water cooler for ages trying to fill it up. But yeah, it's as you say, it's educating and little steps, but it's steps in the right direction.
fantastic. Well, thank you. Well, I'd love to hear from anybody else, but I think I'm going to need to move on. But please do reflect on if there's, you know, certain things that you think would really help you in your role, and would help you to in, you know, communication of the types of things we want to do. So I'm going to move on to the resources and opportunities. So firstly, I don't know whether you've all come across Climate Connections. I really hope so. That is the platform that we've set up to really share the wealth of information and projects and initiatives that are going on in the city, events to support tackling climate change. And it's a growing community. So there is actually the opportunity to sign up as an organisation, because we can all learn from each other. So we've got this new section called the Who's Who, and in there we encourage both you individuals to sign up, but also organisations. And you can see in there, well, who's committed to net zero, who's got a plan, but you can see then that it's linked to their plan. So you can see, well, what are their plans? What is that organisation doing, and what other resources have they got? And so even some of the larger organisations are particularly helpful. So you can see the hospital stuff, you can see Babcock stuff, you can see Marjohn's, you can see the council, and it's a good way to get around. So I encourage you to explore Climate Connections and all of the information on offer. So this is a smattering of some of the organisations that are on there, and this when you're on it and you hover over, you'll see that means they've committed to net zero. This is whether they've calculated the carbon footprint. This is whether you've got a plan and whether they're monitoring it and what year. But really, that's just an overview of them. It's the information inside that's more interesting.
Lou, your screen's not sharing again, that's all.
Oh God.
Sorry.
That's so annoying, isn't it? Right, there we go. Let's try and do that again. You see that?
Yes.
Yeah. And is that showing you lots of different organisations?
Yep.
Okay. So I was referring to these bits here, icons, that at a glance show you where someone is in their journey. And get rid of that. Okay. So also on there, you can see, for example, there is this net zero section. And in that net zero section, it outlines, well, what are all the things we need to do? And there is a section here, lots of illustrations and things like that. So please feel free to lift it and use whatever you want in your communications. And it will show that there is a section for individuals. So here, you know, there's nearly 265,000 of us in Plymouth. Can you imagine how many bowling balls that is if everybody just switched one day of not getting in their car? So there's this hierarchy to think about. So in some cases, we don't need to travel, and that's why we're on this call, which is fantastic. And that at the top has a higher impact with less impact as you go down. So there's that kind of information on there. There's also kind of the list of, well, what as an organisation can you do? So if you're trying to support cycling, there's obviously lots of cultural things that inhibit that. So it's all very well offering a cycle to work scheme, which is really great. But if when I get into work all sweaty from cycling in, I can't get a shower, then that's going to really put me off. And if I can't tie my bike up somewhere securely, then I probably might not want to do it. And if all of my meetings are set up at 8:30 in the morning, then that's going to impact me too. So there's an awful lot you can do and think about within HR and other areas as to how to kind of support it. And I'm not going to go through the whole list, but feel free to have an explore. So this one is, we've got the same for different themes. So this one is buildings. So we've got like about 121,000 homes in Plymouth, and that is, so our homes specifically, you know, if we were to take action, we've actually got the opportunity to cut our carbon footprint by over 20%, which is huge. And in the first instance, like minimizing energy demand, that's things like just turning down your boiler a degree. It's turning off your lights. It's not having everything on standby. Simple kind of things there. So there's lots to really think about. And then there's organisations. Obviously you're in buildings, and how you use those buildings has a big impact, and how you encourage your facilities teams. And so they are really key. Is it still sharing? Can I just say? Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Okay. Now, one of the things as an extension to the website of Climate Connections is we're trying to bring people together. We've set up a climate mingle. That's something that we don't want to do death by PowerPoint. Actually, the point of it is to bring people together in an informal kind of situation, so that people can share their lived experiences of what's working well, just like Sam just explained, and what challenges they've got and where the opportunities are. So it's a quarterly event, and our plan is that it roams around the city. And the next one is next Thursday at the Box, with an opportunity to go behind the scenes and have a look at the Planet Ocean exhibition. We've got Professor Richard Thompson, who's going to talk about that link between plastics and consumption and net zero. So that will be interesting. And we've also got a school. We've got Marine Academy coming there, sharing what they've done in their schools to ditch single-use plastic, like things like laminators and beyond that, and also their wider net zero journey. So just moving on to on the cycling side. So cycling is obviously key and real link across to the health agenda and well-being. It's just a real boost can be a real boost to people's confidence, and just help to blow away those stresses and points of fatigue. Personally, I run, but I think all sorts of different ways of active travel have a great alignment with the well-being agenda. So you'll be familiar with the Beryl e-bike scheme. We've now got over 500 Beryl e-bikes and over 100 locations across the city. I don't know whether you guys have tried them out yet, but a real opportunity, and it's been designed to integrate with the different cycle routes and the different public transport options. And the e-bikes just make it that much easier when we've got hills, which we do in Plymouth. So the support services with that, now I know this says the schools partnership, which might put us off, but actually it's available. It's just they just deliver it. So there is free adult cycle training. So if within your organisation you think there are people that would benefit from that, then there is free adult cycle training on there. There is also free bike maintenance workshops that you can offer your staff. If it's a case of actually people wanting to, always wanting to having mountain biked and get out into those green spaces, Bike Space offers trail therapy, and that's they have the mountain bikes and take people out on mountain bikes into the countryside to benefit them. And part of this is actually being comfortable with cycling and seeing that it's actually enjoyable and not a chore. It's something you actually want to do. The lead bike rides. So another part of it is not wanting to plan a route, and it's supposed to be one of the great things is actually it being a social activity. So British Cycling actually run lots of lead bike rides, so they would guide and determine the routes. You don't need to worry about that. They carry first aid kits should there be any problem, and it's actually like an opportunity to enjoy that. We've got lots of adapted bicycles. There's a new, which you'll hear soon, probably from me, more adapted bicycles being rolled out. And I think next to the Plymouth Valley Trail, there's going to be a new hub there. So that's coming very soon in addition to the existing ones. And then not to forget the personalised travel planning. So some of the barriers to being able to cycle to work is thinking, well, I don't know what the best route is. You know, I'm worried about the roads, and actually it's about building confidence. So anybody can have this, where you will actually be accompanied on your route to work, and they can help them ensure they're set up and actually taking the right kind of route. And then the last one here is e-bike vouchers. So I'll move on to that. That's actually the social prescribing offer, which you may have heard of. I believe it's gaining in growth now, but there is, you know, it's just a real opportunity if you think that somebody would really benefit from this level of support. There are 5,000 hours of Beryl e-bike hire, and there's free 400-minute bundles. Well, that's quite a lot of time, and it's supported with cycle training. So they would have that confidence piece as well, to get people on the road. So to access that offer, it's available through all the local wellbeing hubs, and that's supported through Wolseley Trust, Argyll, and obviously the Wellbeing Hub network. And there's a link here, so you'll get this after. There's a link, all of the links. You'll be able to see, well, what does that actually, what's the detail of that? I don't know how we're doing for time, but I think I've probably rambled on a bit. So I will leave this for you guys to explore, but it's a really nice story of Ros and Vicky trying out the e-bikes and what they got out of it from a well-being perspective. And it's quite a nice story that you can share in your organisations, of two ladies in the city, and one who really had totally abandoned cycling altogether, and it meant by getting on a Beryl e-bike, she was able to get out there again. So those are the links from that perspective. And lastly, just the electric one. I know that it's not accessible for everybody, electric vehicles at the moment, and that's why the electric car club co-wheels can really help with that, because in some cases people can't afford to switch to electric. They can't even afford to run a car all the time, but actually the car club is just so much cheaper, and you don't have that burden of ownership. And there is an offer, a joining offer, a free membership and free £20 credit. I've got one here actually on my desk, and I was able to use the co-wheels car. It's actually so easy. They're so easy to drive. They're just the same as it takes a little bit of getting used to, but it's something to think about and promote. And then there's a whole load of EV charging bays that we're doing at the same time, because when people are ready, and the price of electric cars is coming down all the time, it means it's a cleaner city for all. So those who can afford and who do have and can switch to electric vehicles, it creates a better environment for everyone. I know that cycling, when you're behind an electric car, it's always a joy because you don't have those fumes. So we're doing all we can to increase that infrastructure and stuff there as well. So that's it from me. And I open to any questions. I don't know whether anybody has any burning questions, but feel free. I don't want to take up more of your time, because I think I've possibly overdone it there. But
no, you've done really well, Lou. Yeah, so if anyone's got any questions, pop them in the chat, and then I'm happy to read them out, or just raise your hand, and then we'll go from there. Kate.
Oh yeah, I've got a question around the pandemic and how that's factored in. Long COVID and other post-viral conditions are becoming more prevalent. There's an estimated 2.1 million adults in the UK currently suffering with long COVID, and some of the main symptoms of that, are very similar to ME. You're unable to get out, fatigue, muscle aches and pains. So obviously that's going to have a huge effect on people's ability to access nature and engage in these physical activities that we often link to well-being. How is that being considered for the future? Because that 2.1 million is only estimated to rise, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good point, Kate. And I know that as a council, we've got lots of different teams, and that kind of question gets covered probably through our public health team. And that's not to say that we don't consider the health considerations, but we can't do everything, I guess. So we do try and work with our public health colleagues, and things like the adaptive bikes. I mean, that's a slightly different question, to be honest, but we are trying to increase that wider provision. I think things like e-bikes really help with that, because it's assisted. It means that being able to get around is just so much easier for those people who are not going to have the energy levels to get on an ordinary bike. So I think things like the e-bike scheme are really positive for that. Yeah, so I guess that's our perspective on providing as much access as possible. But in terms of the health condition, that's probably something that is more considered in the public health kind of team. But it is something that we do reflect on, and we're always trying to drive increased funding, because public transport's key too. You know, helping people to be able to get on the buses, and it's really great that actually we've just won a bid with City Bus to convert to half the bus fleet will be electric now, and we've got funding from the government to do that. And what long term, what that means is it's hopefully, because the fuel source will be cheaper, it'll be slightly cheaper to run, which will hopefully give more wins in terms of the bus service and the different number of services that can be run, for example. So it's all integrated and thought of in the round, I guess. So my perspective is what we can do to encourage public transport and you know, things like the e-bikes is all a win-win for that wider context.
Fab, thank you.
Can I just pick up on something there, if I may do? One of the hobbies around sort of vehicles and bits and pieces, but I'm aware that I think some of this needs to come from government, because, for example, I know in California, where it was so hot on the environmental impact of transport, it is possible to ride a fully electric bike, as in with no electric assistance. It's purely down to electrics. So for those that do have some mobility issues along COVID, the MEs of this world, that might be of more benefit to try and reduce the use of cars on the road. But of course, at the moment, those vehicles, say with the electric scooters, aren't currently legal within the UK. So I think there is a potential need for buy-in from central government sort of nationwide to really look at the other options and any of the plans that they could help us as a society with, to try and reduce some of that carbon fuel sort of usage, and make those other methods of transport available for those that, for whatever reason, don't have the ability to use a barrel bike or electric assisted bike, as an example.
Yeah, thanks, Jason. Yes, I think that obviously what the government can do is enormous, but probably with and I'm hopeful that perhaps with this government we'll be able to make more progress, and we'll support all of our endeavours to drive in the right direction. So yes, I agree, and I'm really hopeful for the future.
Leanne.
Hi. I just wanted to add to Lou's bit about the electric buses as well, because I don't know, she probably forgot that they will now be able to take 2 wheelchairs on a bus on the electric ones. So I've had feedback I'm a community builder in the Devonport and Morristown area, and I've had feedback about people in wheelchairs wanting to use the buses, but not being able to go out with their friend who is also in a wheelchair, so they've been having to use very expensive taxis and things to get them around, whereas now with the new electric buses, 2 people will be able to go out together. So for the people I've spoken to, that is a massive improvement. And so I just wanted to add that on to Lou's, really.
Thank you, Leanne. Actually, I didn't know that, so that's really helpful.
That's what I've been told, okay, by the bus people when they were out doing a talk and things, and I grabbed them.
I'll remember that.
Thank you. So yeah, thank you so much, Lou, for your presentation this morning. It was really, really interesting. And all the slides will be sent out afterwards. Obviously, the details are there as well if you do have any further questions for Lou outside of this meeting. The last person we have to give you a little idea about what Hannah does for Lush Plymouth. She's in a new role and it is a really exciting role. So Hannah, are you happy to share what you're able to offer and what you do?
I am happy, I am ready, I am willing, I am a black square, so I apologise for that right now. That's in my face, I just have to imagine what I look like, or maybe don't. Good morning, everyone. Hello. Thank you so much for having me. It's really lovely to be part of this and to see some lovely faces and hopefully make some new connections. My name's Hannah. As you know, I'm the Community Supervisor here at Lush Plymouth. It's a new role that Lush have never done before, and it only exists here in Plymouth, so we're really, really lucky to have it. And basically, for the role, we wanted to live outside the shop, connect the community to us and vice versa, and hopefully create some lovely lasting connections and relationships. Because we believe in sort of creating memories and making days and promoting accessible well-being for everybody. So some of the ways in which we do that, we run something called a Wellbeing Hub, which is an initiative that we set up off our own back. They don't exist anywhere else in Lush, and it's where we invite a local business or a local charity to come and be in our shop for a day. That's normally a Thursday, for once a month, so they can promote what they do. People that use their service can come in and use the space as a meeting point. We can help them recruit volunteers. We'll help them with doing massage and giving out samples to create a bit of a buzz and a bit of a thank you. And that's been really popular, actually. We do one a month. We've done that for 2 years and it's been really great. We're still getting people wanting to come and join us for that. The only sort of stipulation is that the people coming in have got to align with our values. So they've got to, use no single-use plastic or not test on animals, that sort of thing. So it's got to align with that, but that's, part parcel of it. As well as that, we do lots of charitable giving. So we will support events like charity fundraisers by offering samples for goodie bags, or charities will write to us asking for donations to give out to people that use their service, so people that maybe can't come into the shop. They'll get lots of soap or bubbles or things like that. We also do fundraising for charity, which is going through some changes at the moment, but I'll tell you about it anyway. It's called our Charity Pot. And Charity Pot is a fair trade, organic hand and body lotion, which is absolutely beautiful. And all of the money, apart from the VAT from Charity Pot, goes to charity. And that happens all the time throughout the whole of Lush. But as an individual store, we get to nominate a local grassroots charity to come be in receipt of that fund for a period of time. So you can apply for that. Last year we raised about £10,000 for local charities in the shop for local charities, and we raised an additional £15,000 through our Charity Pot grant, which is where the charities can apply for a bigger pot of money, which comes directly from Big Lush, and they can use that for ongoing work that they want to do. So that's blooming lovely. I love that so very much. Another way in which we invite people into the shop to utilise our space is we do pop-ups. So we invite local businesses to come and be a shop within a shop for a day or so, and we've had some really lovely success with that. We've had illustrations, we've had portrait artists come in for Mother's Day doing live portraits. It's just a lovely way and they do it for free. They get to do it for free as well. We don't charge them for that. It's a lovely way of us sort of sharing our client base with other people that might not have ordinarily come across them, which is really cool. What else? Ways we go out into the community, maybe we should talk about. So we don't just have people come to us. We very much understand that people won't always be able to come through our door, so we'll go out to you. We can do talks. We've done talks at the aquarium before on sort of plastic reduction and being ocean safe. We love going into schools, and we've done very recently a whole school bath bomb make for almost 100 children. So we do bath bomb makes, product making, wellbeing sessions, parties, school fairs, you name it. We're sort of happy to try and do it. We can also come into the workplace as well. We do wellbeing sessions in the workplace, so we can come and do some product making, some lovely sort of tactile massage sessions for a lovely little sort of lunchtime de-stress. Really great around Christmas as well, because we'll bring in lots of products and you can do your shopping whilst we're there as well, which is amazing. And we also do things like in-store parties, which is for everybody. Everyone is welcome here in Lush. It's an hour and a half where you can come with one person, you can come with 30 of your mates or your colleagues or your school friends, whatever, and we'll make products. We'll tailor make special activities for you to take part in, and you get exclusive products to take home as well. We've done that for charities such as Pregnancy Crisis Care. They did it to say thank you to their volunteers. We've done it for Friends and Families, which is a charity for disadvantaged and disabled children. We do things like that for Halloween, because we know things like trick-or-treating can be tricky for children with disadvantages. So yeah, we're open for it all basically. I've made a little flyer that's going to be sent out to you afterwards, so that you've got all of those things on it, so that if you'd like to talk about anything a bit further, or you'd like for us to come and do something wellbeing-esque for you or people that use your service, we're here for you. We would absolutely love to do it. I'm all about connection. I'm all about people. So give me a ring, give me an email, and we'll go from there. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Hannah. And that is just something just to show you that obviously there's other things going on in Plymouth. That I came across Hannah at an event and she was handing her cards out, and I thought, oh, very interesting, want to know some more. So yeah, it's just another way in which we want to ensure that you champions have access to everything that's going on in Plymouth. So thank you guys for this morning. We hope that it was really useful. All the details will be fed to you guys afterwards via Shawnee. We'll be sending that out.